Standing solo performance. The Green Goblin, Hades, Scar. What do all these roles have in common? They're all villains, and they've all been played by an incomparable actor with an iconic voice. In All the Devils Are Here, how Shakespeare invented the villain. He used his prowess for playing Broadway rogues and delved into how they may or may not have been born out of characters like Iago, Claudius, even Shylock and Malvolio. The award for outstanding solo performance goes to Patrick Page.
Oh, thank you for this.
Yes.
Thank you for that. I'm so grateful to receive this for this particular show, especially because it's a show in which I perform a lot of Shakespeare. And as I mentioned, I always dreamed that I would be an actor in Shakespeare. I'd always dreamed that perhaps I would have a classical career, and then I came to New York City and began to do musicals and plays and other things. But when I was a little boy, my father was an actor with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and he was in 2 plays at the same time, a repertory, and he came out on the above of the theater, and he had the first line in both shows. Coincidentally, he played Antonio in The Merchant of Venice and Orsino in Twelfth Night. So the first line of The Merchant of Venice is, "In sooth, I know not why I am so sad." And the first line of Twelfth Night is, "If music be the food of love, play on." And those sounds and that rhythm, those lines, were enough to grab me for the rest of my life and make me want to do nothing but that. And this show has allowed me to do that. And what has been so wonderful is, as I go about my life in New York City, running into so many of you and having you support it and saying, "I love what you're doing. Thank you for doing this show." You know, when you do a solo show, you need a lot of that. You need a lot of that. Because the voices in your head are pretty scary. So thank you. Thank you to the Outer Critics Circle. I have a love of critics, drama critics. When I was a kid in Monmouth, Oregon, the way I experienced great performances was I would go to the library at the university, and they had a great big book, and it was full of theater reviews by Kenneth Tynan, by Walter Kerr, by all the great critics. And that's how I experienced the great performances of Laurence Olivier and Ralph Richardson and John Gielgud and James Earl Jones. And so I've always loved theater critics. I've never understood those actors who say, "I don't read reviews." I don't believe you, actually. But if you're telling the truth, it's admirable, I suppose, in its way. I don't have that strength. I go straight to the papers and I read them. And then I memorize everything that was said negatively against me. And I forget all of the wonderful things you've said. No, that's not true. I treasure a lot of what is written, and especially now with the internet, I think as theater criticism is, in a way, facing challenges even greater than theater itself, theater critics have a really special place. No longer as kind of consumer advocates, should you see this show or should you not see this show? Because we have a lot of other people to tell us that nowadays. But as the people who take this ephemeral thing that's going to be there and gone, that's going to vanish into history, and to somehow distill it in words and say, this is what happened, so that I can experience that great performance in some context from someone who maybe has some experience and some learning and some skill to put it down on paper. So thank you so much for this. It means a lot to me.